Why are male horror villains sometimes romanticized as tragic, seductive figures, while female villains are often portrayed as purely evil?
You know, that's a good question. I think the males are more misunderstood, you know, but the females, something about them, you know, they just have that drive just to be pure evil and don't seem to care, like, who they hurt, what they do, as long as they get what they want in the end. Because the males, there's no winning with the females. I don't understand why.
It's complicated.
What is the difference between a male and female nerd?
Ooh, oh man, can I say whatever I want to say? I'm gonna say boobs, because we're all nerds, but girl nerds have boobs.
Well, the main difference is that a female nerd can actually get laid.
The girls are usually hotter and the guys like have a physical appearance of like mom's basement.
Why are nerdy men criticized for being awkward, while nerdy women are sometimes fetishized for the same behavior?
Well, nerdy men are nerds, and nerdy women are hot.
Nerd men are awkward initially, but then I think that changes once you give them the time of day. Once they know there's an opening there, kind of like in my movie.
Why does financial success or career achievement redeem nerdy men in the dating world, but not always for nerdy women?
Well, the reason why financial success as a nerd attracts women is because women like money because they like to shop.
Women are natural attention gatherers. Men, we have to gather attention. So we have to do things to great extent. And sometimes what we do to get attention is not really aligned with us. With women, you know, sooner or later, they know we're coming for them.
There's part of us that needs someone who could provide fully for a while if we have a baby. So I think in some ways we need a guy who has money in case we are going to have a family with him.
Women would like a guy who can provide sometimes. Some women do, I think. So I think that's why that's a plus for men.
So is it really genuine attraction?
What is?
I mean, if a nerd has to kind of redeem himself with, you know, providing, is that really genuine attraction?
That's a good question. You know, who can say what goes on in people's hearts? Maybe it is sometimes, maybe it isn't. Maybe people seem like they're in love and they're not, or they seem like they're not and they are. You never know.
I mean, if you're just looking for somebody for finances, no, obviously not. But if they've got other things going for them, then I think it could be part of the attraction.
Well, if nerds have to make a lot of money in order to have more options in the dating market, aren't they really just attracting the wrong people?
I think if someone only cares about your money, then they're not the right person for you.
Is seeking revenge in the form of dating outside their league a fair or healthy goal for overcoming past rejection?
I think, well, in a way, it's like you're fishing in a pond that's out of your league, but that's part of the attraction.
I think you should always reach above because I think we always sell ourselves short. And if you look at Revenge of the Nerds, in a way, as gorgeous as Ted McKinley was, you know, he wasn't that great of a boyfriend. Whereas you turn to Lewis, very like a great guy, smart, also very cute and very talented in many ways.
Do cultural stereotypes unfairly associate intelligence with physical unattractiveness?
Well, as any successful brainiac nerd can attest, a good brain is good for attracting the opposite sex.
Are intellectual interests undervalued compared to social or athletic traits in the dating world?
Well, intellectual prowess used to be not as interesting to the opposite sex as physical prowess. But now that we've seen what happens when a nerd puts his mind to it and makes a lot of money, it fixes a lot of things.
Why do narratives often celebrate nerds transforming themselves to fit conventional beauty standards instead of valuing them for who they are?
That's an excellent question. Yeah. It's everything's totally backwards, right? You should just celebrate you for who you are.
Would that be comparable to body positivity?
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like Beauty and the Beast situation. You know, the nerd is geeky looking, and then they turn into this like hunk. But I think that they should keep them the way that they are, because nerds are nerds, and nerds are amazing, and nerds are beautiful.
I think it would be comparable to body shaming, but you know, there's some very fit nerds.
Has online dating leveled the playing field for nerds, or do traditional double standards still persist in virtual spaces?
I would say that online dating is an advantage to nerds because they can manipulate their image and fool the opposite sex.
Catfishing.
Catfishing, yes.
I just don't love the whole online dating thing initially because of that kind of superficial thing in general, because I think it is limiting. And I think for some kinds of guys, I know guys are very visual, and I hear that, but I think for me it puts women at a little bit of a disadvantage, because I think it's about, yes, you know, it's like about an attraction, but it's about an attraction to the person, because hopefully you're going to do more than just go to bed with them.
Why do nerdy interests need to be justified as cool to be accepted, while mainstream hobbies are immediately validated?
I think you answered the question with that question, because if you're nerdy already, you're outside the zone, if you will, and so you're looked at differently. When you're inside the zone, you have a problem with nerds.
The reason that nerds are looked down upon is because they're seen as physically weak, and they're introverted, right? And so our society values extroverts and doesn't really think about introverts as much. And what the truth really is that self-introspection is really super important. And again, that's where some of the greatest creative people have come from, is they're introverts, they're not necessarily extroverts.
Nerds are really, that is another word for outcasts. So they use nerds as the word they're using right now. It can be fat, it can be gay, it can be small, it can be tall, it can be too large, it can be too talky. Whatever it is that makes you an outcast makes you less than, for lack of a better word. Me personally, I've learned the hard way. If you can find a connection with somebody, that in itself is hard. So stop judging, just get connected and enjoy the connection. How about that?
Who is more insecure? The alpha male who has to improve himself to fit societal pressures, or the nerd who embraces his identity regardless of societal pressures?
I think the alpha male.
Why?
Because he has to, one little slip and he's off the top of the mountain. He's always got to prove he's better at every angle.
The A alpha type, he has to keep up the illusion, whereas the nerd is just, he's himself.
He can't mess up, he can't let the world see, so he's got all this pressure on him to either be better or stay the same, and in today's world that's hard to do.
I think right now you kind of see this alpha culture on the rise. So I'm sure right now they're probably going through it more, but with this alpha mentality, a lot of that is hatred. Hatred towards women, hatred towards men who are viewed as lesser than, which does include these nerdy men. So these alpha men definitely ridicule these people who are maybe more confident in the things that they love and enjoy.
Why are we quick to label the nerdy guy insecure and the alpha guy confident when he has to continually maintain his persona due to his insecurity?
Yeah, I think it's actually backwards. I think these nerdy men are much more confident in themselves, where these alpha men are constantly trying to prove to other men, not even women, it's mostly men, that they're better than them. So it's definitely kind of in their own head that these men feel the need to go above and beyond to be these so-called alpha males, when, you know, you see we're walking around now with all these amazing people, and these men are very confident in themselves, whether they're wearing makeup or costumes. I don't think you would ever see an alpha male in that situation.
I feel like as long as you're secure within yourself and what you like and know who you are, then it shouldn't matter if anybody else deems you insecure.
At what point is self-improvement based on insecurity?
When you're doing it for others.
If you are only trying to self-improve to try to be validated by an external force, then that's an insecurity. If you're trying to self-improve so that you know it could help your quality of life, your health, your joy day to day, then that's probably coming from more of a place of trying to just be the best version of yourself.
Why do men care if other men are masculine or not? Do women care if other women are feminine or not?
No, and I don't know why men do. I don't give a fuck what they are.
It's a toxic masculinity thing. I feel like women don't necessarily care if other women are feminine or not, but men have put this expectation on themselves and others to be masculine, and that's why they judge each other for it.
Who's a more effective soldier? The traditionally masculine alpha guy or a skinny computer nerd who flies drones really well?
The skinny nerd who flies drones really well because he's supplying air support for the A alpha soldier.
Oh, the alpha.
How so?
Because he's the guy that goes in there and gets it done. He's the guy that does all the groundwork and the footwork and stuff.
But can't the skinny computer nerd just take them all out with a drone strike?
He could, but it wouldn't be as action-packed. It wouldn't be as suspenseful.
There'd be lots of explosions.
Well, yeah, there'd be lots of explosions.
Why are women in horror movies often seen as damsels in distress, waiting for male protection, while men rarely face the same expectation of vulnerability?
Because men are writing them and men are producing them and men are directing them.
I think that's in our nature, honestly. I really think it's in our nature that the woman is supposed to be that subservient, like, save me. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm old school. I dig that. So
I think it's a stereotypical thing for females to be the weaker sex in the franchises. I think Hollywood might not be ready for a strong female presence, so they always want to make them look like they're kind of helpless.
I also think that's probably societal. If you're trying to market a movie, I think most men always want to be the heroes. It's like a masculinity thing where, you know, women always need this man to protect them. Women can't defend themselves. So that, I mean, that's pretty societal. I think that's just the way society has treated women just in general.
And the men, on the other hand, they're seen more as the rugged, tough type that comes and saves the damsel in distress.
Haven't we been seeing a rise in strong female characters in movies? A lot of the remakes have put a lot of strong female leads. I mean, hasn't that kind of been a thing for like the past 10 years?
Well, yeah, actually there is. If you think about Scream franchise and going back to Alien, there's been a lot of strong female characters that could make it through a horror movie.
I think that's changing, actually, because I've seen some movies where the men have been more vulnerable and the women are more of the heroines. But again, that is an old society faux pas where women are considered to be weak, where if you look at Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, she was nowhere near as weak as her male composites.
Why are men who display fear in horror movies often ridiculed, while women are allowed to be visibly terrified without judgment?
You know, I think that's a good question. I think it's due to machoism.
Toxic masculinity, for sure. You know, men are seen as weak in moments of distress when it's perfectly normal. You know, nobody always has the right answer every time. So, of course, I would love to see more men in films being nervous or distressed. Women, I think, are, again, always seen as like the weaker side, so it's normal for them to be scared.
Why are male horror villains sometimes romanticized as tragic, seductive figures, while female villains are often portrayed as purely evil?
So I think that stems from girls have this, like, I like the bad guy kind of thing. Like, it's a little bit of a kinky, you know, like, oh, I like the bad guy. But evil girls are just nasty. You know what I mean? Like Ursula. I mean, come on. No, I love her. But, you know, I think it's a chicks dig bad guys.
Why do women complain about toxic masculinity when they enable that behavior by choosing to date bad boys?
You know, I don't know why women complain about it, because, like, I like nice guys that look mean, but, like, aren't actually mean. So I like men who are more comfortable in their sensitivity and stuff like that. So I don't have an answer on that one.
I think these days we're trying not to care, which I think is a good thing. We're trying to be more open about, what does masculine mean and what does feminine mean, and doesn't everyone have a little bit of both? So I'm kind of all for that.
Well, I mean, isn't there kind of like a biological attraction that women have, regardless of culture, to masculine traits?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I would agree with that, but I think now there's a lot of different, I think what we're seeing is an invitation for people to be more of who they truly are, or maybe we're afraid to show all the parts of themselves. So we have to embrace that, even if I'm like still attracted to a caveman for some reason. I think it's important to embrace and get to know people for who they really are.